Damon, in your opinion, how close are we to actually seeing this mega fight happening?
Well, I don't necessarily think we're any closer than we were a couple of days ago, but we're moving in the right direction. The speculation that Conor and Floyd had reached some sort of financial agreement was, false. I think a lot of that was predicated on Conor making a trip to Las Vegas yesterday, but his trip to Las Vegas did bear fruit because he met with the Nevada State Athletic Commission about a second hearing on his disciplinary action for that whole Nate Diaz press conference. That's why he actually traveled to Las Vegas, to meet with them in person. They're gonna vote to have a rehearing on him in March, and once they do that, if they vote to give him a rehearing, which it sounds like they will, then they'll probably hold that meeting in April or May. And if Conor comes to terms with the commission on a new penalty for that whole press conference, then at that point they can grant him a boxing license, and then we can definitely say we are one step closer to making this fight a reality.
All right, well, you've touched on it. In your opinion, are there any other underlying issues that people might not be aware of that you believe could stop this fight from ever even taking place if the two men can agree on terms?
Well, ultimately, the biggest roadblock is still going to be the UFC. I mean, they hold, Conor under exclusive contract, and UFC contracts do not allow athletes to go out and perform in other any kind of combat sports or any other kind of sports in general without the UFC's permission. Fighters will occasionally go out and do like grappling competitions with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but even that, like when John Jones went and grappled Dan Henderson a couple of months ago, the UFC had to give him permission to do that. So if Conor is going to fight Floyd, ultimately the UFC has to be involved in some way, shape, or form. But I ultimately think the money that can be made for the UFC and for Conor in this fight will move that roadblock out of the way. It's just going to be a negotiation on the terms of how much the UFC is going to get. Are they going to be a co-promoter on the pay-per-view, things like that. But, again, there's just too much money on the table for them not to find some sort of agreeable terms.
Yeah, Damon, we know Dana White is going to insert himself into this in some way, shape, or form. What role is he going to play in getting this fight done?
Well, I think ultimately he wants to be the co-promoter. I think, of course, Floyd Mayweather and Mayweather Promotions are going to be one side. I think ultimately the UFC wants to be the other side. And now Conor has started his own, his own McGregor Promotions. But again, how much that's going to play into this fight is a little bit unknown at this time. But I think ultimately Dana wants to be a co-promoter because if he wants to sell this pay-per-view as huge as possible, at this stage of the game, you need a Dana White. You need the machine of the UFC behind you because while boxing definitely still can produce a high-quality pay-per-view, we know the UFC is in that business. They're very good at doing that. They're very good at building storylines, and they hold the rights to everything Conor McGregor related, meaning fight footage, training footage, the background of his career, the background of his life, all these different things that they hold the rights to in terms of video, in terms of his likeness rights, things like this. They want to play a part, and I think ultimately the fight will get bigger because the UFC plays a part.